So if we go back to the competition arena, um, so Worlds Week, so we've finished North Berwick and you've had a good weekend there, and I'm sure the band's feeling good. Liam, just talk us through how that week sort of eventuates for people that haven't necessarily been to the Worlds and what piping live is like, and I guess potentially the impact that they might have on the psychology of the band about approaching the weekend.
Yeah, Piping Live is a huge event, and anyone out there listening, I would highly recommend going. Even if you can get the chance to go and see the Worlds, go and soak up the Piping Live thing because for the entire week, there's something bagpipe related happening every day. They have a lot of pipe bands come and play down Buchanan Street in Glasgow and do mini performances, which is really good to go and see bands that you don't actually normally get to see in a competition park because for whatever reason they're on the other side of the park or playing around. So Davy and myself and Megan, we all spent the entire week there in Glasgow just so we could go and soak it up and soak up the atmosphere. The other things that you get in Worlds Week is you get the pre-Worlds concert by SFU this year, which was outstanding, and quite a few things like that to go and see and look into. Ourselves as a band, we still just kept our regular practice schedules and still practiced out in West Lothian and Livingston actually. We had two practices as a band, and the Pipers had a third practice that week, just really focusing on themselves, kind of thing. So for us, we sort of stay out of Glasgow as a band and don't stay in Glasgow as a full piece as such. We sort of just keep our regular routine and going through our regular flow, which seemed to work out quite well for us. It's sort of the band just sort of goes where they're based, and we continue doing it. Unfortunately, that does mean that if anyone is travelling to Scotland and wants to come watch our band at a band practice, it's not the easiest to try and get to our band practice because we sort of practice in the middle of nowhere. And it is a train ride away and then a taxi, or if you're lucky enough, you can bludge a ride to get to the practice venue. But yeah, that World's Week is just an amazing week to be a part of, and I'm glad we stayed there.
And Davey, again, not your first worlds, but I guess the first worlds where there might be a bit of an expectation or there might be, a lot of talk about the band. How did you maintain kind of a level head through that? Because I can imagine that not just the pressure, but the excitement would drive anyone to sort of uh, get overwhelmed with the whole experience.
Yeah, I saw it as the kind of the final project of a job that I'd set out to do, really. So, I mean, I went over there to compete through the season, which would end with playing the Worlds with Boghall. So I was just that was the job I was going to do. So I just knew that all the practice I'd done leading up to it, all the time I'd spent with the band, was for that reason. And you know, you can't overthink it. You can't go and do a million times more practice on the week or anything like that. That really in my mind, it's just a this is the job we're here to do, and let's go and do it.
Davey, I'm keen on a comment that Kerr made quite early on in the season in the Volcall documentary, the first episode, and it was something to the effect of all the work's been done. If there are wee mistakes, fine, but do one thing and excite the audience. So would you say, and maybe it's an unfair extrapolation for me to make, but would you say the focus was on being as musical and as expressive, and just kind of accepting that sometimes dumb stuff just happens and you can't do anything about that at the time? Or would you say there was a sort of a zero tolerance for mistakes, or, like if there was anything that went wrong, that was ultimately a disaster?
No, I think Kerr's main focus, and you can see it in the way he plays, his main focus is the musicality, the expression, and the dynamics. Those are the three main things. Obviously, being at that level, you can't go out and play rough. But it was kind of accepted that the style is shifting a bit. So it's still a very bog sounding drum corps, but it's going from what Gordon wanted to what Kerr wanted. There is some significant differences, and of course, it's not going to happen at the drop of a hat. So building through it in one season, were we as clean as we would ideally want to be? Maybe not, but he was very accepting of that. And I mean, in Kerr's mind as well, regardless of the success of one year, like he's in it for the long haul. So he's looking to build something, and it's got to start from somewhere, and the small changes stylistically are going to lead to things not quite, just a wee bit off at times, but he was very good at managing it. It wasn't a zero tolerance. It was a very, come on guys, we can do better than this. But it was always a positive, we can do better attitude. It was never a negative attitude anywhere in the band, honestly. Ross was the same, actually. He never raised his voice once, um, which is good. It was really good. So it was really good with Kurt. He was just positive, we can do better, and, just kept working on it, kept working through things.
And Liam, from your perspective, has much changed in the bass section from when you played back in 14, 15, 16 to now, or is it very much still the same style, same influence?
No, the style of the visuals that they're doing now is changed quite a lot. It took me a lot of work to actually make sure that I was up to speed with all the visuals and drumming aspect of the bass section at the moment is still much of muchness as it was. We're still quite competent with our drumming side of things, but visually they're raising the standards all the time. I don't know if many people know this, but Kerr's actually a tenor drummer as well. He started off as a tenor drummer before a snare drummer, so he's one of those snare. Well, he's the first time I've ever had a leading drummer who can actually pick out the flourishing mistakes, or he can pick out when the flourishing's not sharp. And David will tell you this: the amount of times he will stop the drum corps practicing because the flourishing wasn't quite sharp enough, or someone made a flourishing mistake, and he can spot it all because he can do it all himself.
Mm. Which is incredible and actually helpful in so many ways. So the Worlds. Now, I've written a piece for the Pipe Band magazine and talked briefly about the 2-day factor, i.e., it's no longer a qualifier and then a march display and medley. It's 2 days, 4 performances, and the winner is the best over all 4. So, Liam, what are the challenges with that in terms of maintaining consistency really across all 4? Because it's all very well and good to be first and first on the first day, but if you're 6 and 6 on the second day, you're out of the running. So what are the consistency challenges around maintaining across 4 performances excellence?
I think it's things like just your personal attitude and making sure that you're well rested and making sure that you're looking after yourself. And yeah, it's the first time that anyone ever has to play back to back 2 days, 4 performances, big performances like that, making sure that you're all prepared on the day, you've got all the stuff that you need, and you don't leave like your drumsticks behind or anything like that, making sure that you turn up all prepared. And the key one is, I think, the Friday night, because you've done your first day and then you go home and having a nice chilled, relaxed night and taking care of yourself goes a long way for the Saturday, and turning up on the Saturday still being fresh, because normally everyone competes one day. You do your first day, and as soon as you finish competing, that's it, and you're done with. Now you've got to spread yourself over 2 days and do it all again, essentially the next day, So I find it the biggest thing is personally just making sure that you're on point and prepared and well rested, and you've eaten, you've drinking enough water, and all those sort of things. And then by that stage at the Worlds, you've done all the practice. You're playing all 4 sets, or all 4 performances. You're playing them as well as you're going to be able to play them. They should just be straight away. It should just be all good to go. The easier thing though with the Worlds is you do know what you're playing. There's no draw on the line at the Worlds. So on the Friday, everyone knows on the Friday what MSR they're playing, what medley they're playing. So right from word go in the morning, you know what you only have to concentrate on one MSR, and by that stage everything should be right on fire and sounding really, really good.
And Davy, similar question. So just in terms of, I guess, the first day, like what are some of the challenges, whether it be sort of, knowing once the 2 performances are over, you've still got 2 to go, so you've got to maintain that, or is it sort of knowing that you've played really well on the first day, so both keeping the emotions at bay, but also being as good as you were that day to be even better the next day? Like, what were some of the feelings you had after that first day? I mean, you won the medley, I think, on the Friday. Were you third or something like that in the MSR, or second? You're reasonably high up. So, I mean, you didn't know that at the time, but you'd obviously done well enough to be right in the mix. So, what were some of the challenges you found sort of going from the first day to the second day?
It's doesn't really phase me much, in all honesty. I've done years and years of teaching and tutoring, and that led to mentoring and tuning up and teaching bands at the nationals here, which of course is a two-day event anyway, with the added thing that of course all bands practice on the Thursday. So for me, it was almost shorter than normal. To only have to worry about four performances rather than one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, and plus street marches and all that. So in my mind, yeah, it was just relatively simple. The tricky things were just the fun stuff of drum heads going bang on the day. We had one go bang on the Friday, and we had one go bang on the Thursday night beforehand. So we didn't have any spare drums. Well, we did, but they weren't very up to patch really by the time we actually played on Saturday. But again, it was all just about the work's been done. Have a sensible Friday night. I think I had 2 pints and then I was absolutely wrecked, so I went to bed. Got up on Saturday, back in the kit, back down the grounds.
And I might have seen wrong from some photos and some videos, but did you do a little bit of tuning alongside Kerr? Did you help out sort of setting the tone and stuff like that with the snare core?
Yeah, quite a lot of it. Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, because it's a pretty big responsibility. I mean, like, I know you're probably trying to be reasonably humble here, but it's a pretty big responsibility, I guess, in terms of Kirk can do as much as he can with the playing, but if you're setting the tone or you're helping set the tone, that's a pretty big piece of the whole shop, really.
Yeah, it's stressful. I mean, tuning drums is something that I enjoy doing. It's especially working with Andantes. It's something I've done for quite a while, anyhow. But so that is quite stressful, especially at that level when you're not just aiming to have the best drum sound in your grade in New Zealand or something like that, but you're hoping you've got the best drum sound in the world. Um, yeah, it does. It plays on the mind a wee bit, but yeah, that's at the end of the day, it's again, it's something that I've been doing for years as well in a different scenario. Liam was also on the tuning team with the tenor drums and the bass.
Yeah, I was going to say I saw a few photos and things like that and videos part of local with you and Stevie, I think, potentially, you know.
Yep, Stevie and Joanna as well, Joanna Fairburn.
Mhm.
The three of us sort of tackled the tuning in the bass section, and we worked really well together. It's a very slick sort of team. The size drum corps we have, it's kind of handy to actually have a few people helping out doing the tuning, because what do we got? 13, 14 snare drummers and 8 tenors and a bass. It's a big unit. It's a big core to have to go through and tune a lot of drums, and so having multiple people helping out in a team that you can work really well together is really good. Makes the job a lot easier.
And I think genuinely there'd be a lot of Kiwis pretty proud that not only do we have, two New Zealand world champions, but, two guys who are pretty fundamental, I guess, and a really key part of it, not just playing, but helping set tone and set drums up for ultimate victory. And on that, after the melee on Saturday, which again you ended up winning, talk us through that time between playing and then the march past. Is it nerves? Is it sinking too many beers? Is it listening to others? Davey, how did you feel that time? Because you were quite early on the Saturday as well, right? So you probably had longer than most of those other bands that were in contention. Did you listen to anyone else? Was there anything else that kind of went on?
So we were up second,
Yeah.
we basically went with the idea of just. I think we ended up with 3 hours. We played at 2 o'clock, and then we met for the march past at about 5. So we had about 3 hours to kill. I did end up in the beer tent. I think I only had two at the beer tent, and actually caught up with a bunch of the Kiwi guys, some of the A&D guys, Douglas Bilson and whatnot. Had a good yarn to them in the beer tent for quite a lot of it, and then of course we went back to the Andante tent and played the trios fanfare. I didn't really get to see a lot of other bands to be honest. But also at that level, I'm not huge on going and standing behind other bands that are also going to sound amazing and freaking myself out about how we may or may not have done, you know. So I kind of like just having a couple of quiet pints and then just keeping to myself for a bit of it, really.
And Liam, obviously having been there, a couple of times before with the band, did you get to catch up with anyone else who'd seen it in the past? Did you also avoid other bands? How did you spend that time?
I kind of was just more excited to play the fanfare. I actually love playing the trios fanfare. It's one of my favorite things to actually play it. So I was just excited to play at the Worlds as to play that fanfare because I always love getting the chance to play that fanfare. I was fortunate enough to catch up with people that I haven't seen for many years and many bands. People would come up and then you sort of bump into people and realize, that's who that person is. I haven't seen you for years and you have a good catch up. I didn't see many bands of any playing. I did try and catch a few of the Kiwi bands because I wouldn't mind just seeing how all the Kiwis are going, and they were sounding really good. I couldn't quite see them on the park, but I saw them all in final tuning, and I thought they were doing New Zealand proud, which was really good to see. But yeah, just mainly stuck around the Andante tent and hung out with the drum corps as such, and then there was a few older players who didn't play with us or don't play with us anymore who came across and joined in to play the fanfare, which is really cool.
I think one of the most special moments of I was, watched the Worlds last year in person and watching obviously Gordon's last Worlds, but playing the fanfare at the Andante tent and watching Tom join in, watching a whole bunch of players who had not been there before. It's always quite special watching Boghall play the fanfare and seeing how many people just come around because of the respect. So we've talked about that. We've also talked about obviously the moment of winning and the feeling of that. Was it any different to what you would imagine it would have been, Liam? Like, did it exceed expectations? Like, was it a different experience or?
Well, I've so previously I've been in the position where I've been a centre band and I've stood next to the band that's won. I had that my first 2 years playing for Boghall. I actually stood next to the winning band for those 2 years, and so I'd witnessed the whole up close and personal, witnessed the whole celebrations and how everything goes off. So I had sort of a fair idea sort of what went on when you won kind of thing. But it's one of those things when you do, you just explode. You explode and you jump around, and I don't think I could talk for about 3 days because the amount of yelling I was doing. I think everyone had like crook throats for a week kind of thing after the Worlds there because we were just yelling so much and jumping around, and you wake up the next day with bruises all over your arms and legs and stuff like this, and it's like when you're jumping in and hugging people really aggressively, or you jump into someone who's got pipes and you get a bagpipe to the shoulder or something along those lines. It just a surreal feeling, and yeah.
Or a bass drum to the shoulder that ends up snapping or something like that. And Davy, there was a lot of coverage of Liam running towards the front of the band and being excited, but we didn't see a lot of you. So what were you doing once the band was announced? Were you just around the drum corps? Did you run around? What was your immediate reaction?
Don't know. I threw my hat actually, so I think the first hat that went up might have been mine. I don't know. It's just in amongst the middle of it. Yeah, I didn't bolt right out the front or anything. It was in amongst the guys in the middle. Once the sign came along, I got in behind the sign. I think I was close to dead center of that as well, so that's probably a good spot to sit. Yeah, there's about four of us when it got announced. We were, arms around each other's shoulders, standing in a line, just kind of praying, I guess. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened, to be
Probably one of
fair.
those moments in life where you're just completely taken by the moment. You don't really remember. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the things that kind of stuck with me was obviously the band went absolutely berserk and quite rightly, but Ross Harvey just standing almost in place in shock and just like a total look of shock on his face and like
Till someone clotheslined him, yeah.
that's right. Yeah. And a couple of others obviously kind of stood in position, but then you had everyone else quite rightly going berserk, which was a really special thing to see. So, for those who haven't been to the Worlds, there's the world champions march off the field. Kind of lead it off with playing. So, Davey, potentially just talk us through what that's like. So you're marching off, the Jubilee Trophy, the banner on the pipe majors, or in this case, the pipe sergeant's pipe, walking out the gate to the bus. What sort of happens from there? Do you just keep playing for hours and hours and hours? Do you play a couple of tunes and then go to the pub? Sort of, how did you guys celebrate that win the night?
Well, yeah, we marched all the way back to the bus playing the hornpipes, and when we got there, we struck up into Sad Departing, and then through Shawnee's Tune in the back half of the Fridays medley, which is also the back half of the old Tartan Army medley. Well, mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Slight change in the reel, but yeah. So yeah, we played that once more, and it was after that it was really just lots and lots of pictures. Of course, Liam and I were running away very soon after the Worlds. We were only there for another week, so we got as many pictures as we could at that point before we left. But of course, you had 40 plus people wanting to get a picture with the spikes, so I think we got a reasonable share. But yeah, well, we didn't play. I had wondered if we might play more, but I think what we did was pretty good, to be fair.
And Liam, one of the special moments that I saw, potentially entirely unintentionally, but really special nonetheless, when you were playing the back half of the Sad Departing Shawnee's Tune Glasgow's City Police Pipers medley, some of the kids from the Novice Juvenile Band ended up jumping in the drum corps and playing along. And I think, maybe intentionally or not, it sort of spoke to how special that Boghall family is to the whole organisation. So was it very much a sort of family victory? It was, very much not just that band, but the whole organisation and those that came from it.
Well, what actually happened for the centre bands in March Past, because we've got our novice band there, the decision was made to get the novice band to join in with the Grade 1 because it makes it far easier if they're just with us so we can look after them. So the kids came on with us. The kids were there the entire time that we were centre band, so they were there for the whole 3 hours of the prize giving from 5 till 8 o'clock whenever Grade 1 got announced. So they were there. They didn't play the 6/8s that we played for the March Past. They just sort of stood there. But then when we got announced as a win, they were part of our celebrations, and so they were there. So we had, I think, two or three, must be three ranks of the Grade 1 pipe corps, but then a fourth rank was all the novice kids. And so they marched off with us. Now, the two novice snare drummers are actually already learning Grade 1 music. Kerr's already been teaching them Grade 1 music, so they actually already know the medleys. And so they were marching off, and Kerr said to them, well, you can play as well then. So they know the two medleys. So the two hornpipes we played come out of the Roadbrusher medley, Cockerel and the Creel and Tarnbane's Lum. And so they know the scores, so they played along and got to experience playing off with the winning band. And then when we got back to the bus and we played for a bit, they joined in as well and got to have a tune as well. It was kind of like a really cool thing. It just shows the whole family structure of that band where it's one big organisation and those kids are all part of it. They're the future, That's the next generation that's going to be coming into the ranks of the band.
Yeah, I certainly found it really special and pretty cute looking at all those kids with sort of, big drums on them, but also just playing away with the world champions. I think it's something they'll never forget. And speaking of kids, and we'll wrap up shortly, but Liam, hopefully there'll be a lot of young New Zealanders watching this and being inspired by what both of you have done, which is a pretty incredible thing to do. Not many people get to win the Worlds, let alone from our neck of the woods down under 12,000 miles away. What are some of the things you'd say to young kids who are aspiring to do what you've done? And not just, not just win a Worlds, not even win a Worlds, just play with a top Grade 1 band and be part of what is a pretty special environment.
It's definitely an achievable dream to have to win the Worlds, I believe. It's even more an achievable dream to go and play in a top 6 band. In New Zealand, we have a great pool of talent and a lot of talented players. The best thing you can do is practice and practice and practice and really hone your craft. I would highly recommend building contacts and getting to know people. These top 6 bands, they're not scary people at all. They're down to earth just like everyone else. And get yourself into a position where you're really good at what you can do and really put your best foot forward and just go and talk to them. they're very open to having anyone come play for them, really. As long as you're meeting the standards, they'll probably let you in. I always just recommend going and finding a band that you like and find the music that you like and go and pursue that band. And there's enough New Zealanders at the moment with contacts in all the top six bands, and I think all the top six bands now, there's a Kiwi in New Zealand somewhere along the lines that's played for that band or knows someone that's played in that band. And so it's even more accessible now with the likes of social media and video calls and all those things. It's very easy to go and approach these bands and actually get known by the leading drummer or the pipe major or along those lines. So if you really have the dream to do it, keep working at it, keep practicing, and then just be proactive with it. Especially if you're under 30, because there are visas that you can get that should allow you to then move to the UK if you want to go and do that. You can move over there for a few years, and it's easy to do when you're young. So definitely go and grab it, go and do it.
Davey, same question. If there are lots of young kids, which I'm sure there will be watching this video, what would you say to them if they're wanting to be just like you?
Yeah, it's a very, very similar thing. Work hard, lots of practice. Make sure you've got good tuition behind you as well. Make sure you're right up there and just go for it. If it gets harder the older you get. I could years ago learn a score in a morning, but it takes a little bit more than just a morning's work now to memorize stuff. So do it. Just absolutely do it. I mean, a gap year between high school and uni, or after uni and before getting into work, something like that. Go and do it. Don't wait till you're close to 30.
Totally. I was thinking about this earlier, and you've touched on so many quite special moments throughout the whole season. But putting aside the Worlds, Davey, was there one moment where you were like, "This is what I do it for"? This is why I'm here.
Uh, More than one. Plenty. Heaps and heaps and heaps. And I mean, it's anything from competition days and good performances coming out and watching them back, or just fun, good yarns at practice. Because it's a very fun time at practice as well. It's not all just hard work. There's a lot of laughs and whatnot. Things like that. Good days at competitions, good nights out with the guys, good friendships. So that's what I do it for as well. It's not just the music, but it's the people as well. But there wasn't any one particular moment. There's just a million small moments.
Yeah, totally. And Liam, same question. Probably a difficult question given there probably were so many moments, but
Yeah, I'm just same with Davey. There were so many, like obviously the Worlds is a highlight, and the UK's is a highlight, and they're gonna always be highlights and pinnacles. But it's everything from even just doing parades with the band and stuff like that. There's always a lot of fun. Bathgate Gala Day, it was a fun day out, playing with the band, and we had a lot of laughs there and playing alongside those things. And then like the Spain trip when we went to Ortiguera, that was a very fun trip to do as well. Flying overseas with your band and going and doing a whole week's trip playing, and becoming really tight as a team was fantastic. It's really hard to just pinpoint certain aspects of the whole season.
so thank you very much. Are there any last thoughts that you've got, Liam? Anything that you pressingly want to tell the audience that are listening?
Look out for the latest episode of the vlog call. I think it's going to be a cracker.
Well,
I
the
think it's not
first
due
four
until
were
September or something, isn't it?
Yeah, but just keep an eye out for it. It's
Hmm.
it's coming. But it's going to be a really good episode, I think.
are you featured quite a lot, or is there? I mean, obviously, winning the worlds would feature quite a lot, but what's going to make it special?
I don't know. I actually never know whether I'm in it or not until you see the episode posted because they film all the time. The two brothers who do it, they're always filming at band practices or at contests. So you get filmed all the time. It's just there'll be a lot of world celebrations and us winning and winning the quartets as well with the piping. They filmed
Mm.
all that and Kerr doing drumming for drinks. There's going to be a lot in it. I think a lot of positive things going in it.
And Davey, any last thoughts from you?
Not really. No, it's been an amazing time, you know. So yeah.
Both of you still getting over jet lag, but also still in the hangover stage of winning the Worlds, possibly also the hangover stage from the significant celebrations the week after the Worlds. And just want to say on behalf of the RNZPBA, but also on behalf of everyone in the pipe band community in New Zealand, just how proud of both of you we are, and just the incredible milestone that this is. There are, as I said earlier, not many people that have won the worlds across the world, let alone from New Zealand, and it's a very special moment to not just celebrate one, but two people doing it with the same band in the same year. So, the outpouring I think you saw on our social media channels was pretty special. So congratulations once again, and thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me this evening. And hopefully this is not the last we'll see with you with Boghall, or the last New Zealander or New Zealanders to win the World Champs.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much, Liam. It's been really great.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been awesome. And thanks to everyone in New Zealand for all your support.